try to start a little early to work through all the kinks, but thank you for your patience. And yes, hi, Latoya. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This night is for you. And some of the things that I said backstage is that my name is LaShelle Corley, and this event is hosted by my private practice, Sound Mind Recovery Center. Our 2025 initiative is called Heal Well. It is our goal to encourage individuals to lean into their healing journey even more. A lot of times, the things that are holding us back are those unresolved issues that sometimes still have us kind of, bound to. But this year is about getting free and being propelled into a better and greater version of yourself. And so our speakers are definitely going to be able to share with you tonight how they were able to do that in their own journey. A few things I want to say before we go any further is I want to provide a disclaimer that um, I'm not sure where you are in your healing journey. And tonight, there may be things said that may trigger a memory, may even cause some intense emotional response. And I want you to know that it's okay. I want you to be able to, step back if you need to from the event, take some breaths, take some deep breaths, and just calm yourself and come on back. But even with that, if you notice that, um, you're having a harder ability to kind of like, calm yourself, and you just feel overwhelmed by the experience. And it's really challenging. And this is, I want to say, after the event, let's put it that way. I want to give you the crisis hotline. The national crisis hotline is 988, and that's a number you can dial for additional support if you need it. If you notice that you need more immediate emergent support, I would encourage you to go to your nearest hospital crisis unit, because I know some topics can be triggering, and so we definitely want you to get the additional support that you may need in an urgent manner. All right. And if you notice, this event is in a webinar format. So we are going to need your emojis. We are going to need your chatting. So chat away. If something stands out to you and it's in your lane and you like, oh yes, I can resonate with that, let us know. Put it in the comment section. Hit those emojis. We definitely want you to be engaged tonight. During the event. So, before any further ado, I am going to introduce our speakers for tonight and our therapists. All right. So, tonight you are going to hear one of our speakers, Miss Giselle Quintanilla. I said it right, Giselle, right? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Listen, I was like, I'm gonna get that all the way right. Giselle is a mother, author, speaker, and entrepreneur. She has two amazing boys and a beautiful daughter. After 10 years of working in the corporate arena, Giselle found herself frustrated and unfulfilled, working for someone else's benefit. In 2018, she decided to fully focus on her purpose and accomplish her dreams of writing. She launched a faith based blog for women and published her first book, Armored in Purpose: 5 Principal Truths to Discover Your Purpose. From there, Giselle started Ready Writer Services LLC, where she offers writing workshops, Spanish translation, self publishing packages, and branding and marketing services. Shortly after, she left the stability of her telemarketing job to work solely on business. Since then, she's helped countless new and existing authors share their stories and become best selling authors. Giselle has been featured in both Call to Inspire Top 50 Empowered Women, Empowering Women in Growth Women's Business Network magazine, in addition to being on the cover of Say It Out Loud magazine. She is also the author of Winning in Your Vows, The Necessity of Singleness in Unwritten Words, a manuscript writing guide for beginning to end. She is now a 5-time published author with the recent publication of The Pain Plan. Giselle helps separated and divorced women entrepreneurs overcome the emotional pain of broken relationships so they can move forward with their purpose and maximize their business potential. Giselle is on Facebook and Instagram at Gisiquin. That's where you can find her. So thank you, Giselle, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miss Rynaka Woods. Rynaka was born to Miss Marilyn Woods and Mr. Gary Jones. She was raised in Cumberland County. She graduated from Cumberland Regional High School, and she grew up as the only child until the age of 16, and she was raised by her mother, who was a single parent. However, they never lacked anything. Rynaka is a proud mother of 3. Her eldest son, Shamir, who is now 24 years old, and has literally walked with her through every aspect of her journey. Her middle son, Shamor, who is now 22 years old, and her only daughter, Kimora, who is now 17 years old. She's very close to all of her children and value the relationship they all have together. As a young girl, she's always known God had a great plan for her life, and she's always felt the calling to minister to the youth and those who are brokenhearted. This awareness of God and the calling he placed on her life originated from her Christian faith. Rynaka grew up following her pastor, Chief Apostle Mary L. Woods, to church, and as a result, she has been a member of Victory in Christ Ministry, Inc. Fair Team for the past 33 years, where she is currently serving as a youth leader. Life has not been a crystal staircase for Miss Woods, who has seen her share of failures, defeats, and victories. However, no matter how hard life has been, through her faith, hard work, and dedication to her family and her dreams, Rynaka is living out her dreams every day. Her joy is to tell her inspiring story to others to encourage and uplift them even in their lowest moments, because she knows that if God brought her through, he can do the same for anyone else. Miss Rynaka Woods is the founder and CEO of Collins Family Center, one of Cumberland County's premier child care facilities, with centers in Bridgeton and in Millville, respectively. Miss Woods has earned her Child Development Associate credential, and she's been certified in business management, CPR. She's gonna save your life. First aid, and she's become a mental health tech in May of 2024. Miss Woods has a heart for the community, especially those who are underprivileged. Through Collins Family Center, she does yearly community outreach initiatives to the community that she loves. In addition, she believes that this is only the beginning as she takes strides to dream bigger and reach higher to obtain everything that her heart desires. Miss Rynaka Woods' favorite scripture is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. In addition, her favorite quote is, he saw the best in me when everyone else was the worst. Everyone else saw the worst in me. So thank you for being with us tonight, Miss Rynaka Woods. And last but not least, we have our therapist on post, Miss Joanne Turner. She is a licensed clinical social worker with 25 years of clinical experience in diverse areas such as anxiety, depression, trauma, and relationship issues. She is an experienced psychotherapist, adjunct professor in New Jersey certified clinical supervisor, willing to assist those inspired to join the field through trauma-informed practices. She is devoted to delivering personalized care through individual and couple or marriage counseling, as well as offering clinical training opportunities. She is a certified facilitator, of prepare and reach premarital and marital counseling, trauma-focused CBT, and other treatment modalities. Her focus is instilling in others after making everyone else a priority. It's now time to choose you. So again, as I said before, you are in for a treat with these amazing women. There is something though that I want to bring. Well, I'll bring it to your attention. We might have a little break, and I'll bring it up then. Um, but right now we are going to dive in. There's no need to wait. So we're going to dive in and have our discussion with our speakers. Again, feel free, throw them questions in the chat, any questions you may have, anything that stands out. Throw up your emojis, participate how you feel comfortable doing that. So here we go. Let's see. All right. So the first question I have for you ladies is, what is a life-changing event that significantly impacted your sense of worth?
Okay. I'll start. That's fine. That's what is a say that
What
one more time.
Yes, a life-changing event. What is a life-changing event that has significantly impacted your sense of self-worth?
So, personally, I'm gonna very briefly talk about 2020. Right? I think we all know what happened in 2020. So, say 2020, everybody's like, "Yep." Um, and so, during the pandemic, I was actually going through separation and divorce, and it's one thing, right? It's one thing if, somebody is like, this isn't working, you're arguing all the time, and you're like, all right, let's just get a divorce. That wasn't my story. For me, it was the uncovering of lies and things that I didn't know, right? That when you are secluded and stuck in your house, you have nowhere to hide. And so it was, finding some things out about my former husband and in our relationship that really made me question me as a wife, as a life partner, as a woman, as a mother, and then take into account somebody who wasn't taking accountability or responsibility for their actions. And so it was the blame game. If you did this, I wouldn't have done that. If you had done XYZ, I wouldn't have, right? You're not doing this and the A, B, and C. And so therefore, his actions it was my fault. And so when you go through not just, because everybody's like, I want their divorce, but when you really get into the nitty gritty of, this is what happened, and now you get the finger pointed, that question my self-worth. It was for a moment there, I really started thinking like, what am I not doing? What am I missing? Where did I go wrong that caused this person to lie and step out? So that was my, life changing um event, life altering, that really made me question myself and every role that I thought um I was doing well in.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Giselle. And I thank everyone. I thank you for the questions. We're definitely going to have like a break period where we're going to address any questions. So feel free to bring them up. Rynaka, do you need me to read that question again, or you're good with it?
No, I'm fine. I'm sorry. Somehow Zoom had kicked me out. I had to log back in.
Okay.
I want to say my life-changing event was when I got incarcerated back in 2008. And then the process of coming home, I felt shame. I felt guilty. I'm like, nobody's not going to want to hear me. Like, it took a hard time for me to get back the relationship that I thought I damaged with my kids. Um, back into the community. I felt like I had failed everyone. I'm like, not Ron. They like, not Rynaka. Rynaka, like I was some. I'm not perfect, but I was somebody that you never thought it would be incarcerated. So I'm going to say me going to prison. And unfortunately, I went twice. But me going to prison, I feel like that's what changed, kind of changed like things about me. It kind of lowered my self-esteem. It kind of lowered my trust issue. I got trust issues, insecurities. So I would definitely say that it definitely was me going to prison.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And Joanne, from a therapist perspective, I know we have a question there, but if you want to tap on anything they just said, feel free to add that as well, Joanne. But the question I have for you is, a lot of times we hear when we're thinking about significant life challenging, life-changing events, we hear a lot that word trauma. And it can manifest in so many different ways. So before we kind of like go any further, can you give us some insight on what is trauma and how does it impact our lives? Yeah.
Definitely. Trauma can actually be defined many different ways depending on the individual. And some people don't even realize they've been traumatized. But trauma is an emotional response to a distressing event. So what that means to one may mean something different to another. You could have been traumatized by witnessing. You didn't actually have direct impact or effect from the incident, but trauma impacts us, as the ladies have said, that it will attack your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-confidence. It attacks you to where you are because you may start self-blaming. As Giselle says, she didn't do anything wrong, but the fingers were pointed at her, which could have her taking on all of the guilt that she did something wrong. And in other words, that trauma impacting her another way. But I tell people all the time, if it was out of the usual for you, if you had a significant emotional response to an experience or a secondary experience, it was trauma for you.
Thank you for sharing that. And the thing is too, trauma, like you said, it can manifest in different ways, whether, like you said, you can observe something or you can be a personally impacted by it. And these can be things, relationships can create traumatic, can be traumatic. Seeing a car accident can be traumatic. So
Yes.
I thank you for providing insight to that. My next question is, how did the relationship or incident make you feel powerless or out of control? And this is for Giselle and Rynaka. The examples that you just gave, how did that make you feel, again, powerless or out of control?
Well, I would say for me, because as we know, when you're behind bars, you are at somebody else's control. You got to eat when somebody else tell you to eat. You got to get up when somebody else tell you to get up. In reality, you're a human being, but you're not a human being. So that alone, like, you just feel like I'm just so unworthy. Like, I'm just so, like, you just feel like you're just, like, I can't even use the word, like, or how you feel when you're in that situation, like having to get up at 5 a.m. and go work for like $1.10. So when people say, like, I've been at my lowest, so I know how it feels to have nothing, and I know how it feels to have everything. Like, that's a true statement. You going to work every day and literally nothing's coming back to you. You got to pay fees, so we're paying back to like the government and stuff like that. You can't do for yourself. It's like you're just feel so hopeless. Like, and it's some, unfortunately, when you get in situations like that, if you're not mentally strong, it can really like affect you. Like, you could come home, like, thinking you're so healed or you're so ready to conquer the world, and you end up right back in there because you didn't either learn your lesson or you didn't mentally get your mind together. And I'm glad that you have Miss Joanne here, because she can kind of give insight on the mindset of when you're going through them traumatic experiences, or when you're going through a situation of that sort. She can kind of and talk about the mindset, because it all definitely all starts with your mind.
Yes, thank you for that, Rynaka.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this. My situation and what I went through at the root is religion, right? And so the thing about relationship with anybody, so mine was marriage, but with anybody, is that you never have control. Right? Because people are going to do what people want to do, right? Because we're not supposed to have control over other people. So for me, it amplified even more because I have 3 kids. We had a house, right? I have a business, doing ministry, and he was an essential employee. So while he was doing stuff, I'm over here taking care of everything that's in the house and making sure he doesn't have to worry about anything. And so for me, that was like my area that I could control. So when it shifted and all of a sudden I found these things out, I completely lost control. Meaning in the sense of really, it was like a reality. You get like this almost like slap in the face of, oh, you thought that you were in control. You thought that things were good. You thought that everything was okay. Psych. Right. And so, right. And that's literally what it was. And so for me, it was very like, I did not have the power, but I'm going to say this because this was 5 years ago. And so I'm going to say what happened, and I talk about it in my book, is the way that we obtain control, right? Because human nature, we want to control. So the way that we do that when somebody hurts us is now we put parameters, right? So when I confronted him, it was, you have an option. You can end it, or we can do this. We can do, like, now it was, right? No, and here's the thing about people who really are not repetitive, they just act remorseful. He said, I'm going to end it. It's over, right? So I said, okay, great. This is what you're going to do. You're going to call that person and you're going to tell them in my face. But I'm going to say this right now, how foolish. But this is what happened 5 years ago, right? You're going to call them in front of me and you're going to tell them it's over. He did that. You're going to set up, whatever, right? Whatever boundaries, whatever things. And that was my way of coping with the fact that I really never had control. Because I actually was powerless.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Giselle. Joanne, any insight from on that? Excuse me.
For both of them, yes. First, I want to say you're awesome women. I'm glad that situations that you experienced could have taken you a whole different route, but I'm glad that you found something in you that you fought, because it was a fight. I know it was a fight, and probably the biggest fight was with yourself. Because as Rynaka said, your mind will tell you all different kind of things, and you're not good enough, or you're unlovable, or see, you just wasted your life, and see, people are going to look at you different. But I'm grateful that you didn't allow those inner voices to guide you. And I don't know where that outside voice came from, but if it was a person or if it was your belief, your faith, but you listened and came out, because some people do not, or they remain stuck. And so it's very important that you allow yourself to go through the process, because it's not like, okay, I'm just going to brush off myself and I'm going to keep going. If it was only really that easy. So you feel like you become vulnerable at everything at some point. Like you become like hyper vigilant to not be caught in that situation again. So I don't want to go ahead, so I'm trying not to LaShelle, but it's important that you first recognize what it was. And if it wasn't your fault, it wasn't your fault. Even if it was your fault, guess what? We didn't all jump on a bicycle and start riding. We did fall off. We may have had training wheels, but you find out what it is that you need for support. You get on that bike and you keep going until you succeed and reach your destination, whatever that destination is. So regardless of the trauma that you may have been through, some of the experiences you may have had, you can still be successful. Yes, you are lovable. Yes, you can achieve. And I just hearing the two of your bios, and you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say yeah like that. I was just so much in agreement with Joanne when you made it. They are doing it and doing it well. And doing it well.
Yes.
And doing it well, Rynaka. And doing it well, Giselle. So there's two things when I was listening to Rynaka and Giselle. What stood out to me from Rynaka, she said, you end up right back there. And Giselle talked about not being repentive, not being genuinely repentive or remorseful. And when you're not genuinely repentive or remorseful, you do end up right back where you started from. And so when we're talking about control, losing control, feeling powerless, it is sometimes, and I hope I'm gonna try to pull myself back because I don't want to jump ahead either, but sometimes that's right where you need to be. And in the moment, it don't feel good. It don't feel good to say I'm powerless. It doesn't feel good to say I'm losing control. But sometimes that's needed to prepare you for the next phase. So we're going to go on to the third question. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop real quick. And there's two questions I noticed that were put up. I'm going to give a little time for those questions. I'm going to interject real quick with the questions. It's just two of them. The first question was, there's a trauma related question, Joanne. And then there's a question here. I think this is more towards Giselle. Let me see. All right, I don't see the other question. Yeah, I don't see it now. So I just see the trauma related question. It said, can you talk about how trauma affects your memory or ability to remember things from that time of your life when you were going through the trauma? And if you can give some insight briefly on that, Joanne.
Yes, definitely. I guess I will share for 20 years. I worked with victims and perpetrators of sexual assault. Still work with perpetrators, but they were traumatized as children. And some of them prior to them being able to verbalize, some afterwards. And with memory, sometimes that is how people who have been through trauma, what we call like repetitive trauma or chronic trauma, it happens continuously. You have someone who may have been, say, sexually assaulted from 5 to 10 years old, and that those 5 years they cannot remember anything, because what occurred and helped them to survive was suppressing the experience, and they somewhat dissociate to the point that they weren't the person getting abused, it was somebody else, and they were able to watch, and that whole process, it just blocks out those years. And if an individual doesn't get mental health services, you may continue to have those block of times out because it hurts too much to accept or realize that you actually have been through that trauma. And I gave an example of sexual assault, but it could be domestic violence. It could be many different segments of trauma. So it is a defense mechanism, is a way that you are attempting to protect yourself from going to that space. And I hope I answered all of that question.
Yes. And there was a follow-up question, how you get those good memories. And a lot of times you can work towards regaining that memory but first you got to confront the obstacle, the barrier that's causing you to suppress those memories. So a lot of times it's about confronting it and working through it to help you regain some of those good memories. And there was another question, and it was, how did you know it was time to leave? That was for you, Giselle. How did you know it was time for you to leave that relationship?
So so when I first found out, about infidelity, when I first found out, like I mentioned, we did all, had the conversation, this is what you're gonna do, all the things. I actually found this is why I say remorseful, but not really repetitive. And I caught him 3 more times. So here's the thing, right? And here is, and I'm going to say this right now because I don't know everybody's faith. I am a believer, but I'm going to say this. God is not a God of confusion, and he is not a God of chaos. And those things I knew very well. But I'm also going to say on the flip side that at some point you have to love yourself more than the person that you think loves you, right? Because sometimes we have love skewed. And so, and one thing I did not want to do, because my parents did it and it messed me up as a youth, I wasn't going to stay because of my kids. That was not a reason for me to stay. I wasn't going to stay for my parents. I wasn't going to stay for the church. I wasn't going to stay for the house or for the finances. You got to love you more than any other thing. You have to love you, outside. You can say, but outside of God, right? Again, because I'm a believer, outside of God, I had to love me more. Because there's no way that a loving God will put you in a chaotic and toxic relationship and keep you there. That's how I mean.
Thank you for that, Giselle. Yes. And just to add to that a little bit, one thing I always try to use to guide me is, what am I allowing and what is necessary? Right. And so a lot of times why am I allowing myself to put up with this? And a lot of times it's because we're projecting our hopes of what we want this person to be, so we cause the hope that we have. How can I say it? We have a view of what we want that person to be. And so sometimes we will allow that image that we're hoping that person to be, to blind us to what the person is actually showing who they are, So it's being able to say, I'm going to get into a place where you stop allowing yourself to put up that projection of what you hope them to be, and take that down to see them for who they are. And that takes time. And I think when you've suffered enough, you take off the glasses of what you hope the person to be and you see them for who they are. So sometimes it is, like I was saying before, sometimes the hardship is necessary because it's teaching us something in our journey. So we're going to move on to the next question. Oh, do you have your hands up, Rynaka? Yes.
I just wanted to add, I'll be real quick, because I really only spoke about my incarceration, but I just wanted to add to what she was just talking about the hardship. The hardship is necessary, because prior to me getting incarcerated, I was in an abusive marriage. And I was in a domestic violence, but it actually took me going to prison When they asked the question, how did you leave? It actually took me going to prison to get out of that situation, because it was a situation that my mind said I would never had left. So I just wanted to add that that when you said it takes some time to take a hardship, it actually did take a hardship kind of. And then when I came home from prison, we were divorced, but I was happy. But I wouldn't have left, or I wouldn't have took that mask off had I not went to prison. So I just wanted to add that, because I only talk about the incarceration, but I didn't want to hold up time about all the trauma.
Well, that's a great addition, and it blends perfectly with what we've been saying. I'm going to move on to the next question. It's, how did anger or resentment show up in your life from those experiences, whether it was the divorce or the prison? How did anger and resentment show up?
Well, for me, I resented my ex-husband for a very, very long time. Honestly, I want to say just within the last 2 or 3 years, I honestly could just have a decent conversation with him. Our kids was older, so my mindset was, oh, I don't have to talk to him. My kids is older. He could talk to the kids. I never want to talk to him again. But part of my healing was actually to be able to talk to him and be able to have a conversation with him. And I felt like that kind of healed me inside, because it may not be the sorry or the apology that I never get. So me continuing to hate him, or even being mad at the prison system when I did I did those things. But I feel like that was part of my healing, be able to actually sit down and have a conversation with him and let him know how that hurt me. And then as far as the prison, now sometimes I go back to the halfway house and I speak to the women there. So that's my healing on the prison side of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There are different types of anger, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, again, this is true story. What happened when I found out, my very first reaction was to go to God, and because I'm a believer, go to God and be like, I forgive him, right? Because that's the choice I make. The choice I make is I'm going to forgive, right? But it's a process. So even though I wasn't openly, outwardly, loudly angry, there was anger, and how it showed up was actually after our divorce, where I found myself in situations as a single mom that I never did before, right? So if I had to pick up the trash because the trash bin fell over, I was like, I wouldn't have to do this if he had messed up and did blah, 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 right? Like if I had to, I have 3 kids, so all 3 of them have different doctors and stuff. So if I had to take all these kids to all their appointments by myself because he wasn't helping, I was like, I was angry because I wouldn't have to do this if he had just done it, right? Like if because of him, I'm in this single mom situation where I'm doing all the things. And that's how my anger showed up. Then there were instances during, this was post divorce, but during separation, there were instances where I would like just out of nowhere, just one of my kids would do something and I would just yell and just, be angry with them. And what I realized is in that moment, I wasn't really, they were not the cause of my anger. The cause of my anger was really their dad, right? And so what I had to do quickly so that they would not become, that's the thing, when we don't deal with anger, everybody is collateral damage.
Yeah.
Everybody gets it. Everybody's going to get this smoke. So what I had to do was I had to go back to my kids because I'm a believer. My parents never did this with me. And I am a true believer of being open and honest with my children, right? And so, they didn't know about details about their dad, but they understood that mommy and daddy weren't going to be together. We're not together now. We're not going to be together. We're going to divorce, all this stuff. So I had to go to them and say, listen, and I had to apologize and say, mommy's angry. He's going through all these emotional roller coasters and it is none of it is your fault. And so please forgive me. I am so sorry that I, took out my anger and whatnot. So I think they understood that. But then, like I said, then post-divorce, there was still that anger and it was very hidden. It was very like, if something was going on, we still had our old house. I was the only one doing repairs. Every time I had to go to my old house, I was angry because I saw it as a tie. it was tied to all the reasons why I'm dealing with this. It's because of you, because of what you did, because of you stepped out, because you decided to make these choices. So that's how my anger showed up. And I realized like I just couldn't stay angry. I could not stay angry.
Thank you for that, Giselle. Um, Joanne, your thoughts as it pertains to the stages of grief because of loss of self and others.
And grief, I guess I should start off, does not mean death.
Mhm.
It doesn't just mean someone died and that's why you're grieving. Grieving is it's no longer there. So the 5 stages of grief is denial. This is not really happening. This can't be happening to me. It must be a bad dream. You're just having a hard time accepting it. And as we just finished talking about, the second one is anger. And anger can be outwardly, or anger can actually turn inward. And if you don't recognize it, it can end in a very bad place. So these intense emotions that you're feeling of wanting to get back at something or someone, most likely. And also the third stage is bargaining, when you kind of want to make a deal, sometimes with yourself, sometimes even with God. It's like, well, if I do everything right, then um maybe this could happen. If I uh maybe, if I would have done as Giselle was giving an example of, maybe if I do these things he's asking, then maybe my marriage can come back together. So it's an attempt to bargain, and sometimes even with someone who is gravely ill or whoever even died, you're still trying to bargain with God. And then the fourth stage would be depression, an intense sadness, that you just kind of stuck. You can't get out of it. I made a poor choice early in my career. A lady in a depressive situation, not knowing um, much about where she was. I told her, you know the saying, pull yourself up by the back bootstraps. Come on, snap out of it. Um, and it's not that. If it was that easy, people will actually do that. But depression is really, really intense. You can't get out of bed. You might have migraines. You might be sitting in the dark. Um, you don't want to say anything. You don't want to eat. You overeat. So depression shows up in many different ways. And then the fifth stage is acceptance, is where the work can start. You accept it. It is what it is. Um, there's nothing I can do. The situation is, let me try to work through this, to heal and to move forward. So you're at that point accepting what the consequences are. I hear Giselle when you said you had to go back to the house and the emotions that came up, and not just a physical place. Sometimes you have to go to a place mentally, but just accepting this is what, I'm not going to stop going to my favorite restaurant. So what, it was, where we used to go. I'm just accepting that, you know what, I'm going to do this anyway, and move on. You're able to move on, but it is a process. And one thing I do want to add is that they are the 5 stages, but they don't necessarily go in that order. And it's not that you go through one stage, okay, I'm done that, I'm here at the next. No, they can intermingle, go backwards, go forward. So there is no set order for someone going through the 5 stages of grief.
Thank you for that, Joanne. I just want to add in regards to anger. We feel angry at ourselves or at others because there has been a violation. And whether that's us violating our values or somebody else violating our values. And so when you feel violated, it's going to trigger anger. And the thing is about anger too, anger can be intoxicating because sometimes you can feel real good being angry. And so it is so important that you allow yourself to accept the fact that you was violated, accept the fact that you feeling hurt. But and also getting support to deal with that anger, so that way it doesn't lead to what Giselle said, collateral damage, because a lot of times when people are hurt and they're not satisfied with their lives, it leads to misery. It leads to a lack of satisfaction, and that in return can cause a person to be more susceptible to hurting other people. You hear the saying, hurt people, and that's real. And that's where the collateral damage comes in, and it's like a domino effect, where this person is hurt, they're not satisfied with their lives, so they inflict that on someone else in regards to their behavior, and now the other person may retaliate against that person. It's just like this domino effect. But then there are people who can be hurt by someone and not do that, because they recognize that for me to hurt you, it takes a lot of energy to hurt people. A lot of times people are, it takes more energy to hurt a person than it does to not engage in that. And that level of discipline can be challenging as well, but it's possible. But the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of times when people are hurting other people, it's stemming from something, that a need in them that is lacking. And so that's why it's so important for us to, have that time to reflect, and look where and try to see where the root of our anger is coming from. But I want you to know, a lot of times is rooted in a need not being met, whether that's in your life or in the other person's life. We're going to move on to the next question. And the next question is, what did you do to forgive yourself? How have you sought forgiveness for possible harm caused to others?
So I'll start with this one, because again, when it came to so a couple things. So when it came to my kids, right, I already talked about how I had to go to them, because I was realizing that I was taking out on them something that had nothing to do with them. They didn't cause the pain, right? But I was taking my pain out on them. And so, seeking forgiveness from them. But then also, I had to forgive myself. And so probably the first person I forgave when all this happened was my ex-husband. And again, because it was a choice, even though I still was going through the process of forgiveness, it was a choice I made rather quickly. But I had to then forgive myself for, one, while I recognized that it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong, right? So that's the first thing, is understanding you didn't do anything wrong, Giselle, right? But then also, though, I had to recognize the part that I did play in what happened to me and forgive myself for that. Mm-hmm. So I had to forgive myself for, as you mentioned earlier, the things that I did allow. I had to forgive myself for not loving myself the way I should have loved myself. I had to forgive myself for the moments where I did drop the ball. I had to forgive myself even for the moments of 15-year marriage. It's not like we were married for a little bit. It was 15 years with 3 kids, right? So I had to forgive myself even for things from the very beginning where I messed up. I had to forgive myself even for things I did as a young adult, when he and I were just dating. So, you know what I mean? So that it's like I really had to, because all of it played a part. And I didn't realize that it all played a part. So I really had to dig deep into myself and the part I played in the hurt. That doesn't excuse the person. It just allowed me to love myself more and release myself from these things and show myself grace.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that.
I want to say, as far as forgiving yourself, if we're being totally honest, I'm still working on that. I'm being totally honest with myself. I'm still working on forgiving myself. My kids, I know I have had to, like she said, I had to ask them for forgiveness because I left them for almost 5 years. My daughter was 18 months when I left her. When I came home, she was almost 5 years old. And then my sons was a little bit older. So I had to really, I feel like I owed my daughter more forgiveness because she was younger when I left. Like I missed out on a lot. And then I went to prison again. So I'm like, honestly, out of her life, how long was I really there? So some of the issues that me and my daughter, I feel like we're having now, I oftentimes blame myself because I wasn't there for her how I should have been there versus my boys was a little bit older. So honestly, forgiving yourself, I'm still working on that. Forgiving others, like I said, my kids, I have asked them for forgiving this. My mom, who unfortunately just passed recently, I had to ask her for forgiveness as well because of my poor decisions. She now had to help with my kids, so she had to help raise my kids when she had already raised her. So now here she is raising mine. And then the first time I went to prison, I wrote bad checks. Some of the checks that I did write was not my own. So the person who checks I did use, I had to ask them for forgiveness, and I feel in my heart they have forgiven me. But that was very hard because the person trusted me. So I'm still learning to forgive myself for that. Like oftentimes they don't, little do they know, like oftentimes when I see them, I'm like, dang, I really hurt them. And they may think I just went on about my married life, but in reality, I still think about how I have hurt them. So I'm still learning to forgive myself. I feel like others have forgiven me, but I'm hard on myself. So I'm still trying to learn to forgive myself.
Can I just add, because LaShelle, you and I have talked about forgiveness is very much a big topic for me.
Yeah.
Because it's I think it's easier sometimes to extend it to other people than it is to ourselves. Right. And so I really had to, like, I say I forgave myself, but it's a process. You make a decision like, I forgive myself, or I forgive you, I forgive this person. But then there's a process after that. And so it's not like, it's like, okay, forgiveness, boom, you're done. No, you still have to walk that out. And so, personally, what it looked like for me was I wrote myself letters. I wrote myself several letters. I wrote myself letters, right? And I write myself letters often. But I wrote myself a letter. I wrote a letter to my younger self. And I had to really talk to her about why she made the decisions that she made and how it wasn't her fault. It was, if she didn't know anything, and it's okay. And we're better now. And so now you learn and you're better. And so for me, and this is the other thing I want to add is, again, as a believer, it was important for me to remind myself that I am forgiven. And so I have to forgive myself because I am forgiven. Because if I don't forgive myself, but I'm forgiven, then I'm not really forgiven, because what I'm saying to God is his forgiveness doesn't matter. And so I'm my own God, because I'm constantly holding myself to this self-righteousness, right? To this, and sometimes is a dirty word, but you know what I mean? It's you're holding this over your head constantly when you have a whole Father who forgave you, who knew that we were going to, he knew all the dumb stuff I was going to do. I was a young adult, but he forgave me. And so, that redemption, when it is a gift. And I think that for us, when we come into that realization and acceptance of, then it makes it easier to go through the process of, okay, I'm going to go ahead and forgive myself because I am forgiven. And to continuously repeat it in your mind, it holds you in bondage. And that's one thing that for me in my heart, I never wanted, was to be in bondage. And so that was important to me. So forgiveness, I get it. It is something I'm very, it's a process. It really is a process.
Thank you for that, Giselle. I just want to say to you all, can you all still see me? Can you
Yeah.
still see me? Hi, ladies.
Yeah, they're saying yeah.
Okay, so I want you to know that I cannot see myself. My screen is black. I can't see any of you. So I'm not going to allow that to interfere with us going forward, but I cannot see anybody. My screen went black. So I'm familiar with what's happening and I'm putting it under my feet and I'm putting it in subjection right now to my voice.
Yep.
And we going to keep it moving forward. So okay.
Sorry.
So Joanne, can you please give us some feedback on just forgiveness, what it is, and what are the signs that you know you have forgiven yourself and forgiven others?
Yes. Forgiveness is a conscious decision that you have made to let go. In other words, you are releasing those feelings that are attached to whatever that was that caused you unforgiveness. So it may be release from the feelings of anger or release from the feelings of resentment or even revenge. You're letting them go. If you, I'm visual and it just popped into my head when dandelions, I don't know what it is actually called when they become those little white little weed. And if you take it and you blow and they go there many different directions, it's a little bit of what forgiveness is. Some will fall immediately, some will fall, travel out, but it's a conscious decision. You've made up your mind that you want to let this thing go. You no longer want to hold on to it because holding on to it, I believe, creates many different other challenges. I believe it can cause health issues. It can cause mental health issues. It can cause other relationship problems. So it's important that we learn. Is it easy? Not at all. It's definitely a process. Some things we may be able to get over or forgive quickly, but there are some other things that may take a longer time. And I believe your second part of that question is how do you know that you have exercised forgiveness? You no longer feel that resentment or that revenge when that person comes around or when the situation, you're reminded of that situation. You are no longer feeling connected to it, that you have released it and you're moving on. Whether it was the person, when you see them in the supermarket or see them at the mall, you can say hello, and there is no nothing going on the inside that you like, oh, wait, I ain't get mad. Or I didn't start thinking of, oh, I'm gonna find their car, I'm gonna slash their tires. That you really, and usually I believe the work, because it is a process, the work is happening on the inside as you're seeking forgiveness, that it appears and you didn't even know it was gone until that situation comes back before you, and then you say, oh yeah, it's not there anymore. So it is a conscious decision to release it, and it is a process that has no determined time frame for you to actually say, oh, that should only take about 5 days or that should take about 2 weeks. No, no one determines that. And I love what Giselle said. As a therapist, I am very, very big on journaling because that is a way of getting it out of you. And so it's no longer in here, it's in here. So Rynaka, I don't know if you're using something outside of yourself to actually help you through the process. But getting it outside of you is a great technique to use.
Thank you so much for that, Joanne. I just wanted to add in regards to forgiveness. I am very big on that word forgiveness too. And I actually feel like when I was growing up, I was miseducated about forgiveness because a lot of times I was told forgive and forget. And some things you're not going to forget because it's your lived experience. You're not going to forget it. But like Joanne said, how do I know I'm healing? How do I know like I'm healing? Yeah, how do I know I'm forgiving and healing? Is because I'm not having certain things happening, and I'm gonna pull back because I think I jumped a little bit. But what I want to say about forgiveness is in my own search to better understand what that was, I was able to get insight in the definition of forgiveness that has come to me is that forgiveness is releasing yourself of the responsibility to carry another person's poor behavior and handing it over to God's justice. I'm going to say it again. Forgiveness is releasing yourself of the responsibility to carry another person's poor behavior and handing it over to God's justice. And when I say God's justice, it doesn't mean like all this horrible stuff is going to happen to them, but it means that you're saying, I no longer want the control of this. I take the control off. I take myself out of the position to feel like I have to control the outcome of a behavior that I didn't commit. This is not my behavior in which I need to control. Like I'm not attaching myself to that behavior anymore. I'm handing it over to that which is greater than me to deal with. The other thing is too that concept of God's justice is also about God working on you as you heal from that situation. So it's a two-way thing. I also want you to know that forgiveness, it takes, like Joanne said, it takes time, and the memories may come back and the feelings may come back, but it doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven, because forgiving someone is not an emotion. It is a choice. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, I have chosen to forgive. Now your body still remember what happened. Your body remembers how you responded to that situation, and your body and mind got to get into agreement. And when your mind and body get into agreement, that's a sign that you healing. Sorry, I jumped ahead just a little bit. But the point of the matter is, though, healing is a choice. I mean, forgiving is a choice. And the more you choose to forgive, the more you regain your dignity, the more you regain your power, and the more you can shift your focus from that person, letting that person rent all this space in your mind, right? You can shift from them renting all this space in your mind to you focus on where you want to take your life, to you focusing on taking your life forward.
Yeah. LaShelle, can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I know I don't know. Oh my gosh, please forgive me if I'm not going to say it because I think I might be jumping ahead, but I will say this. Because you said forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I'm going to say this. There's a very important reason you don't want to forget. You do want to forgive, but there is one very important reason you don't want to forget. I'm going to just say that. I know if I say it, I'm going to jump ahead. But the other thing too, I want to say is this is a little hack for believers. If you want to go in the process of forgiving somebody, pray hard for them. Pray fervently for that person who hurt you. And I know that there's somebody on the screen like, pray for that person. Let me tell you something. If you fervently earnestly pray for the person who hurt you, I am telling you, that is such a huge process of forgiveness. And I know it's hard. So I'm not sitting here telling you it's easy to do. It is that is a process. So it might start off with a little something like bless them God. Right? Protect them, Father, right? But when you really go in, that'll help you release it. And the other thing I just lastly want to say about forgiveness is forgiveness does not mean trust.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing. All right. Just because we forgave doesn't mean we trust, and doesn't mean we're back into just everything goes back and reverted the way it was. That's
I'm just going to add one little thing to that. Not to be, I don't want to make this into anything like, well, I'm just going to say it. There is a biblical scripture that says, be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. And being wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove mean, I'm going to forgive you. That's the dove in me. But the serpent in me is saying, I can't trust you, because when you do something like that, I have to be aware enough that I have to move differently with you because of that action, until you can show me differently that I can bring you back into a place of trust. So forgiveness is not about being a fool. It's about saying, I seen what I seen, I felt what I felt, I experienced what I experienced, and it's not benefiting me by rewinding the tape. The more I rewind that tape, the more I keep going back to that incident, I am suffering. I am inflicting my own suffering by continuing to go back to that incident. And it takes time. Trust me. I know the feeling. But the more you press forward, you journal, like Joanne said, you may get to a place where you want to pray for the person. That's an option as well. This is about you restoring your dignity, because they have violated you. So the more you dwell on what they did, you're not able to regain your dignity, because you're still dwelling in the violation. All right, we're going to move on to the next question.
LaShelle, can I say one thing about
Yes.
forgiveness that we sometimes don't realize or forget? Is forgiveness is not for them.
Yeah.
It's for you.
Yeah.
So your struggle or your lingering or inability to forgive, it's impacting your life. And believe it or not, it can actually hinder you from your own blessings, from your life process, because that's holding you back. So it's holding you hostage because you won't you won't allow forgiveness. And it's impacting you because if you see them, they're going about their lives. They're not even thinking about you. So why should you be held captive? Because you don't forgive. Forgive and let yourself go. So you're releasing the emotions that is attached, but you're also releasing yourself and opening yourself up for many different opportunities.
Absolutely. And the other thing I just want to add too, when you forgive, right? Forgiveness doesn't require an apology for them. You don't need someone that hurt you to come to you and say, I hurt you, for you to know that they hurt you. So you validating your own pain can actually help you move forward. And like Joanne said, you're suffering. And you remember the two questions I asked myself: what am I allowing? What is necessary? I'm allowing myself to suffer. The more I dwell on this thing, what is necessary for me to have a safe distance and interaction with this person, if I choose to interact with them again, right? But for me to regain my dignity, it's necessary for me to regain my dignity. It's not necessary for me to reconcile any relationship with this person. It's not necessary for me to trust them. It's not necessary for me to give them, access to me like they had before. That's even if I choose to have a relationship, it's necessary for me to limit the way I allow myself to interact with this person, especially if they haven't taken accountability for their actions. So it's heavy, but it's possible. We're going to move on. Thank you, ladies. We're going to move on to the next question. And I'm on my phone because literally my screen went out. My screen on my laptop is black. So sorry, I'm trying to get that next question up. All right, the next question is, what lessons did you learn from the relationship or incident?
You want to go ahead, right?
I was trying to hit unmute. I'm sorry. I got these long nails on. I want to say I definitely, honestly, like I said, my first time I went to prison, I didn't learn my lesson. I didn't come home and go right back to prison, but I did go back to prison in 2019. And then is when I learned my lesson. I went, like I said, I went to prison in 2019. My mom had in 2018 had just got diagnosed with cancer. So I knew I was on my way to prison. I'm like, okay, God, my mom not healthy. She can't take care of the kids like she used to. Rynaka, you need to get it together. So that last time God set me down is how the Collins Family Center came about. That time I took the time to use their resources. That time I took the time to change my mindset. That time I took the time to get to know me better without being a wife or without me being a mother or having any titles. It was just me and God and me figuring out who I was and who I am. So I think it was that last time that I really learned my lesson. Like I said, I had a conversation with my kids before I went in, and I explained to them where I was going again, and I said, "Mommy can't do this no more." And I never forget my oldest son said, "You think?" And that is what always stuck in my mind for the next 2 to 3 years, however I was going. That was stuck in my mind is him saying, "You think." And me missing milestones that I never thought I'd miss. Like my youngest son graduated high school. I wasn't there. I wasn't the mom that missed anything. I wasn't there when he graduated high school. Him about to go off to college, and they got to bring him to a halfway house for me to sign papers, even though I was grateful for that. But at the same time, I had to think about your kids are getting older now. How is this really affecting them? Him having to come to the halfway house and sign papers when everybody else mom is there, and he got to come with his coach for papers to be signed. So that is when I really learned my lesson. And that lesson was like, Rynaka, you need to stop and get it together. Everybody else go to work and do things. Why can't you? So that's when I feel like I really learned my lesson from that last incident.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say that I learned several lessons. But I think that the most important lesson I learned was how to treat myself. Like for me, right, as as a woman and going through divorce, and now, I looking to be married again, right? Because I'm not closed off to it. But in that transition, I really had to think through how I wanted and deserved to be treated, but I could only do that by learning how to treat myself, how to love myself, how to treat myself, how to hold myself to high value. And so, so that was a big lesson for me. The other one was, was boundaries. One of them was boundaries. Understanding that was huge for me. And then it was also how to handle my triggers. That's a big lesson too. Because I had a lot. I came out, even though I was in healing, there were still triggers and things that would just kind of set me off. And I didn't understand why. Or it wouldn't even be, and I would love to say that, it was my ex who triggered me. It actually wasn't. It was actually somebody who had nothing to do with what happened to me. And so, there were things that would come up and I would get triggered and I would have this defensive, my defensive would go up. And I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not. So after a few times that this person who was nothing to do with it, that was not the person who hurt me, wasn't anything like the person who hurt me. And I had to really sit with myself and say, why am I acting this way towards this person who is nothing like the person who hurt me, whose heart is not like the person who hurt me? They didn't mean me harm. But there were things that they would do that would instantly get me in this place of, I cannot trust you. I can't open up to you. I have to go, right? The fight or flight. I gotta go. So I really learned how to understand and handle my triggers. I learned how to treat myself and love myself. Um, and I learned how to hold my boundaries.
Thank you for that, Giselle. And I have a question for you, Joanne. No, not that. Why do people keep going back to unhealthy relationships? What are some signs that a person should or should not reconcile a relationship?
There are many different reasons why people go back to unhealthy relationships. I like to call them toxic relationships.
Mm.
I teach a workshop. Do I go or should I stay? In regards to toxic relationships, but mostly it's fear of the unknown. I find that people go back to unhealthy relationships because they have a fear of being alone. They have low self-esteem. If I don't go back to that person, that situation, then no one else is going to love me, because we may have been told that. Um, Sometimes it's that emotional attachment. We as women, when we have given ourselves to a man, sometimes it's difficult to break that tie, that emotional tie with them. And also sometimes it's just learned behaviors. It can even be cultural, where you're hearing that we in our culture, no, you, so what, he did that, you stay there as a wife and you continue to do his duties, is okay, you're not the first one. So it's many different reasons um why people go back to unhealthy relationships, and it is a fear of the unknown. I mean, what if I don't find anybody? I'd rather have somebody to treat me bad than not to have anyone at all. I've heard someone say that. But I think your second part was what, how do you know if you should reconcile? I'm sorry, LaShelle, what was the
Yes, the
second?
other question was, yes, it was about reconcile, and it says, what are the signs that a person should or should not reconcile a relationship?
Okay. I would say you're gonna have to ask yourself some hard questions. Why do you want to reconcile? Or why shouldn't you reconcile? But more so, why do you want to? If it's because they said that they're sorry, or I can't manage this house by myself, I need their finances. If it's about them and they and things, usually that's not a reason. And yes, it's going to be difficult if you're used to a two-income family and now you're going to one, or you had a support person as you're navigating through the children, with the children. That may sound like the right answer to reconcile, but it's not the healthy answer. So we need to have that hard conversation with ourselves. Why are we doing it? Who's going to benefit? Is this what you really want? And I think one of the things I know I challenge um, people that I work with is self-discovery. Okay, before you make a decision, let's discover who you are. Let's look at what you want. What are your desires? What are your goals? What do you want to do with your life? And then do they fit into this equation? If not, then there's no reason to reconcile. But I think self-discovery is very, very important, because um, if you're in this unhealthy relationship, that may be how you are or have identified yourself. So, absent of that, who are you? What do you want? What do you desire to be or achieve? So, definitely, that is, or those are some questions you should ask yourself.
Thank you, Joanne. And you know, it's not always that easy to leave a relationship or to go back into one. A lot of times what could cause a person to not re-enter certain relationships is because you see the patterns, you see the cycles, and you don't see anything changing. And sometimes it's okay to say, okay, well, I don't think I want to deal with these people at all. But it's also okay to say, I know I'm still going to have to deal with them, but I'm going to reduce how long I'm around them. When I notice certain things, I'm going to, reduce my presence around certain things. So every relationship doesn't, when you have hardship in certain relationships, every relationship doesn't mean that you got to go like no contact. Sometimes it is important to go no contact with people, especially if there's danger involved, significant danger or a significant violations of trust. Sometimes that's enough to pull back from people, or again, reduce your how much time you spend around them. I know in my own healing journey, I had to do what I call is a limbo, where there's certain people I have no contact with, but there's other people where I'm in a limbo, and it's like I'll be around you, I'll have a positive interaction with you, but you're not someone who I want to have a relationship with, but you're a person who I'll have a brief positive interaction with and move on. So when as you heal and you reclaim your dignity, it empowers you to know how to interact, engage your comfort with interacting with certain people, even the people who may have caused problems or violated you in some way. You'll gain that wisdom on how to deal with them as you're healing, and moving forward with, again, reclaiming your dignity. I'm going to move on to the next question. We're getting there, ladies. Again, my screen is black, so I'm literally holding my cell phone to participate. Sorry, I'm trying to get this other question up. The next question was about boundaries. Okay, I have it here. What boundaries do you need to set to protect your healing?
I'm going to say for me, this one I go back to the relationship wise. I knew what I went through with my ex-husband, so I would just look at things that I went through with him that I wouldn't allow again. Like the abuse. Like soon you start your raising voice, I'm like, that's kind of red flag for me. I'm like, okay, you're kind of, so like the raising of the voice, or like soon you act like you want to raise your hand, or the disrespect, or those would be some things that would like be a no-go for me, because I know where they can lead to. Even though it might be like innocent in the beginning, that's kind of where it leads to other things. So if you stop it right away, that way you won't go down that dark, because that was a very dark place, and that's a dark place I never want to go back to. So in order for me not to go to that dark place, I got to stop it in the beginning and not put a mask on. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll get better. Maybe if I keep doing this and I keep being me, things will change. And that's sometimes where we get messed up at it. When we feel like if we keep being us, that'll change another person. No, another person not going to change it to that person is ready to change. And that goes for us as well. So we shouldn't stay in situations longer than we need to, because we keep trying to be us. So you're trying to save you and you're trying to save them, and it becomes draining. Trying to be a superhero for everyone or everybody connected to you, or whatever the relationship could be. It don't even have to be like a man and a husband. It becomes draining trying to change everybody. So I would say even if it's a friendship, if I start seeing like those signs of trust, not like trust being broken, or like, okay, maybe this friendship is not for me. So we just have to be mindful of the dark places that we used to be in. And when you start seeing those signs, don't continue, like, okay, God, what you want me to do? And don't stay in it, because sometimes we stay in things because, oh God, maybe you're trying to teach us a lesson, or maybe we're here for that person and we get stuck.
Yeah. Oh, that's well said, Rynaka. Well said. Giselle, what do you have? You need me to read that question again?
Oh no. Oh no. So here's what I want to say, right? Because this is why I said earlier, you can forgive, you don't want to forget. You don't want to forget because it's important when you set your boundaries. Because boundaries is not, it's not a matter of should I, it's a matter of no, yes, like you have to, right? It's just a matter of what healthy boundaries are you going to set. So it's not should I, it's do it. What does that look like? What do healthy boundaries look like? Because here's the thing about boundaries is not for you to punish the other person. Boundaries is for you to protect yourself. That is the purpose of boundaries. And so when you understand the purpose of boundaries, you understand how to set them. And you don't want to forget how a person showed up because what's going to happen, and I'll give you a great example. It just happened to me this past weekend. Because what's going to happen is, as Rynaka made the perfect example of, they're going to come in your life and you're going to do like a jokey joke thing, like, oh, hey, hi, yeah. And then they're going to think, okay, we cool. And they're going to want to go ahead and when in Spanish, we have a saying, and it goes, when you give somebody a hand, all of a sudden they want your arm. Mm. So you got to be careful with those people who are going to want to test the waters of where they are in your life. And so it's important for us to understand that. And one of the things I told my ex-husband, I kid you not, we were in the kitchen because while we were separated, he was still in the house. He said to me, we were separated. We had made the decision to divorce. And he said to me, hey, what do you think if, we purchase an investment property together? And that was crazy. With me? I said, sir, I'm gonna trust you with our marriage. I'm gonna trust you with our money. Okay. And the other thing I said to him, let me explain something to you. And I'm very respectful. I was not rude. I don't curse. I said, I'm gonna explain something to you. You're forgiven. I forgive you. And I pray for you. You're the father of my children, and I want you to do well. Because it would not benefit me for you to do bad. But I can promise you, you and I will never be friends. And I meant it when I said it. So some people like, never say never. No. Because we have boundaries, I can promise you, we will never be friends. Right? Because friendship matters. And you got to understand where to put people in your life, categorize. Yeah. And so with boundaries this past weekend, now my son is in the hospital real quick. My son's in the hospital. He's well, just pray for him. But so his dad has been with them, and then his dad's brother, his dad's family have been there. Now, we are not close anymore. Some stuff happened. So his family, I'm not close with them. I'm cordial. They are the family of my children. I'm respectful. But his brother started joking around with me again. And I immediately went, time out, flag on the play. The fact that we have a common interest does not mean I'm now lowering my guard and you can come into my life and you can hit me up on my phone. Like, your brother is with my son. Go talk to your brother. You don't have to hit me up. He's got 2 parents and you're related to only one of them. So it's very important, right, to forget how people showed up in your life, because who they showed up as, that is who they are.
Yes.
And that's going to help with boundaries.
Thank you. Well said as well. Thank you, Giselle. Joanne, the question is, how do we set boundaries? And how do boundaries help us to define the level and type of access? I think Giselle just answered that one. But I'll go with, how do we set boundaries?
Yeah, Giselle was all over it.
Yeah, she answered that part.
But boundaries is setting perimeters for a relationship. Think of a square. You got 4 sides. You can go within this certain area, but that's it. And if we don't set boundaries, people will violate them. They will test them and then they will violate. So in order to set boundaries, we need, again, I'm going back to that self-discovery. We need to identify what our values and our beliefs are. In other words, what's important to you? What is it that make you feel safe? What makes you feel respected? What is comfortable for you? And this is what it is. They're not flexible. They're not negotiable. These are your boundaries. And then you want to recognize what your comfort zone is. Like, I'm listening to Giselle, so we can have a cordial conversation, but no, we're not going to go out to lunch. We're not going to do some other kind of social leisure thing. You're making it real easy. I'm cool, because sometimes people take your kindness for weakness or vulnerability. Oh, no, 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 no. This is what it is. I haven't changed. I'm smiling and I'm laughing and yes, I'm still saved, but no, these are my limits. And then you want to consider what you need, because we all need something from other people. What is that you need from them? What do you want um, out of life? You want to be happy, you want to be healthy, you want to have a fulfilled relationship, you wanted to be able to do certain things. And then, so you're setting those limits. If you A boundary might be, you're hanging out with friends, is or associates, and everybody start getting an alcohol beverage. You don't drink, and that's against your belief. You may, as a boundary, say, you know what, guys, I gotta go, I'll talk to you later. You may leave that situation. So having them very clear and set, they're not flexible, they're sound. And I think it's very important, once we have established boundaries, that we make sure that you don't deviate from them. So our boundaries should be clear. We don't deviate from them. We establish and we remind people what they are. I'm sorry, I don't do that. That's against what I believe. I don't like it. Whatever you want to say, and not laughing. Ha, 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 it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. And then you want to, I want to use a strong word of demand, but you want to demand respect. Like, no, that's not how you're going to talk to me. That's not how you're going to do me. No, that's not a joke or funny. We're not ha ha he he. No, no, no. So you want to demand respect. You're giving it. So you want it back as well. So the other thing is just making sure that you are always safe. It's a safe place, physically and even mentally, because especially for those toxic people, they will throw a little curveball with what they said. Is not really the words that they use, but where it's that dagger is being thrown, and like, no, not going to do that. So we definitely want to like, look, like Giselle said, she hit on that very well. We want to, identify what our core beliefs are, what our values are. We want to recognize our comfort zones, and then what do we need? What do we want? If it's, or is it in those perimeters of what you want? Is someone trying to violate that space? Not at all.
Thank
And
you
they're
so much for.
concrete.
Oh,
They're concrete. They're not flexible.
thank you so much for that, Joanne. I'm just going to add to boundaries help you to continue to show up as your authentic self.
Yeah.
When you don't stand on your boundary, when you go beyond your boundaries, you're pretending.
Mm.
So you're being something that you're not. So anything that's going to cause you to be something that you're not, that's a sign that a boundary needs to be placed there. And like Joanne said, it's not negotiable. I'm not going to negotiate how I should. I'm not going to let you dictate how I should be me. So the next question is, how has your experience shaped your relationship and how has your experience shaped who you are today? And I'm going to add the other question just for time. How has it shaped who you are today? And what would you say to your younger self if they were in their healing journey?
I'm going to say that it made me who I am today, because I feel like if I didn't go down those dark roads, I wouldn't be able to be an example not only to my children but other children or other women that might have been in a domestic violence relationship, or to other women that has been broken and hurt, incarcerated women, because that's also something I want to eventually do, is open a facility for incarcerated women. So I feel like if I didn't go to prison, I feel like if I wasn't abused, like I feel like I wouldn't be strong actually. Cause like I told you earlier, it was me going to prison that actually got me out of that relationship.
Yeah.
So I feel like God took me down that road because he needed me to go through that and then be where I am today. I'm stronger. I'm a little bit wiser. I ain't gonna say I'm like the smartest, but I'm wiser. I say I'm wiser. I can make better decisions now. Now when I make decisions, I think. Before I didn't. I'll just do. I didn't think about what I did. I'll just do it. Um, and I would say to my younger self, honestly, I grew up before I had to grow up. I got with my ex-husband, I was 14 years old. We were together for almost 20 something years. Like he was that was the only relationship I ever had, um to be honest. So if I would say to my younger self, definitely wait. Make sure you're making the right decision. Make sure this is who God has placed in your life. Will that person enhance your life? Because I felt like, I was into church and I'm like, okay, God, I'm just going to go ahead and get married. I had ended up getting pregnant. I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and get married. And I feel like if I really, really seek God guidance, I might not had went down that road. But again, I felt like I had to go down that road. And I'm a firm believer that everything bad is not really a bad situation. Sometimes good things come out of really bad places. And I feel like me opening two daycares and me being an ex-felon and could actually tell you I own a daycare. The people that put me away, I now work with them. I went and spoke for parole. I remember a time parole wouldn't give me parole. They actually contacted me and I came and spoke to other ex-offenders. So I felt like that my bad situation kind of shaped me. So now I can work with the state of New Jersey. I'm like, not me. Like you would never think. So sometimes bad situations bring out what's already there. You just need something to help bring it out. So again, if I could say to someone younger or going through something, when you see the red flags, please get out. I tried to commit suicide. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I mean I could go on. I tried to commit suicide because of the relationship that I was in, and I didn't want to go to prison. But again, it was my mindset. So always follow your mind. And if you got somebody that could talk to, please, please. So I was the one that didn't ask for help. I wanted everybody to think that I had it together. Like I wanted them to think that I had my life was just so perfect. I had everything together. So if you have a support system, use that support system. If you have like somebody like Miss Turner, now you have good therapists out there that you can reach out to. I actually might be reaching out to her myself because I think I need some help too. But like it's there, it's there. And again, my main thing is don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what led me in a situation that I was in. I didn't want to ask for help.
Thank you for that, Rynaka. What would you say, Giselle?
Oh my gosh, I just love listening to Rynaka. I'm sorry. You know what I love? I'm gonna say this real quick. When you heal well, you don't look like what you've been through.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? You really don't. Like, Rika's over here, like, this is what I'm doing now. And your pain really births your ministry and your purpose. And so I just love that so much. I'm sorry. I'm just listening to her. I'm like mad hype right now. So I will say that how it shaped me, who I am today, is I'm a better mom. I'm a better woman. I'm stronger in my faith. I am emotionally intelligent, which is so important.
Yes.
Because that is not something I could have said, before I went through my divorce. And, so I really am, I have I'm emotionally intelligent and I'm able to articulate my thoughts, my feelings, right? I am able to manage them and understand them without hurting other people, right? And not that I won't, it don't happen, but I'm able to be more aware. I have an awareness of myself. And I'm authentically, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so when you operate in your authenticity, you're super comfortable with you and who you are in your own skin. And so that's who I am, as I'm comfortable in my own skin. And so what I would say to my younger self, right? Because that was the second part of the question,
Yes.
is, the sooner that you embrace your authenticity and how God created you, the sooner that you can just operate in how he created you, love you, and be okay and embrace every part of you, good, bad, or indifferent, all of it, right? Because I'm not perfect either. But I will say I'm also much wiser because of all that I've gone through. So I always say, it sucks. Nobody asks for situations. I'm sure Rynaka wasn't like, hey, I'd love to go to prison again, right? I wasn't like, hey, can I please get this divorce after 15 years? Nobody asks for pain, but it is necessary.
Yes.
So, that's what I was, that's what I was saying.
Thank you, Giselle. And Joanne, the question, what are signs that a person is reclaiming their power and healing well?
I think we see here before us.
Yes.
Giselle and Rynaka, they hit it right on the head, whatever the saying is, hit the nail on the head. They said stronger and wiser. Your experience have helped you to make better decisions. You're more in tuned to certain things because you had those experiences. I love Giselle said that she's emotionally intelligent. She learned from that experience. And Rynaka, the fact that she says she's stronger and stronger to the point that she's willing to reach back and bring somebody else up that been through the same experience. And I think with reclaiming yourself is take it or leave it.
Yeah.
This is who I am. You either take me or you leave me. And leaving me is no hard feelings. Like do what you got to do. But it is the self-awareness. It is the setting of boundaries. It is having self-love. It is being your authentic self. Is allowing yourself to be who God created you to be. And so I was writing notes as they were talking. I'm like, that's good. But the thing about it, and I see in both of these women, is they're able to articulate clearly. There's no shadow of a doubt. They gain strength from their experiences and they are articulating it. They are demonstrating that they have reclaimed their power and their healing. So if any of that past happens to dangle before you, that it doesn't have an impact. And just for just a little transference, I was hearing these ladies, my grandson had his junior prom on yesterday. So I had to see my ex-husband and his wife. And so it doesn't stop music. I can't wait till my kids are 18. No. Mine are adults and have their own kids. But guess what? Every time there's an event, whether it's a birthday party, it's a graduation, you see them. And you know what? I don't have any hard feelings because I healed well. It was a process. I'm not going to say I always was there, but I would say, hey, how you doing? Everything good? And not that we're having any conversations after that. But when you heal well, you take that power back. You take that control back. You take your identity back, your confidence back. And there's no shadow of a doubt that you have it because everybody around you can see it. And you're not afraid to tell it.
Yes, and like you said, Rynaka and Giselle are definitely two examples of what healing well looks like. I want you to know that in regards to the event, we're kind of like at the end of the discussion and things of that nature. I also want to just thank Rynaka and Giselle for their feedback. I want to thank Joanne as well. And I also want to announce to everyone that our comedian that was supposed to perform tonight actually canceled right early this morning. she reported that she was sick and she couldn't um, proceed with the event. So I do apologize on her behalf for not being able to offer the comedy show that I know many of you were looking forward to. I myself was looking forward to it. So it was a blow to me to get that early this morning. But I thank you all again for showing up. Um, Before we go to, I just want to um, allow myself and Giselle, and then Rynaka, you can as well, and Joanne, you can as well, to promote some of the things that we have that you might can utilize in your healing journey. I wrote a book, a workbook. If you can see, I don't think you can see it. You're not going to be able to see it, but I wrote a workbook. It's coming. There it is. I wrote a workbook called Yield, and it says pain produces power and power produces praise. And so listening to Rynaka and Giselle share their experience, you know, like I said before, suffering is trying to teach us something. And when we're able to learn the lessons from our suffering, it empowers us. It enables us then to now have this praise of like, you know, look what I've been through and look what I've learned from this experience and all that wisdom. Now you can use it to have an impact on others. And so this event tonight, and also this book the workbook that I wrote, is a reflection of me also going through my healing journey and taking devastating life events and becoming empowered by going through my forgiveness and healing process. So this book, if you're interested in it, you can email me back, because I think I email everyone and I can give you more information about how you can purchase a copy. Giselle, do you want to share your book?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, so my latest, I have it here. My latest publication is called The Pain Plan. And this is the blueprint for healing from emotional trauma through marriage, separation, and divorce. And this book, it's not just my story, because it does have my story. It actually goes back to when I was a teenager and a young adult, and why I did some of the things that I did in my marriage in the beginning, because it really stemmed from my youth. But it also talks about how I was able to walk through separation and divorce. And in it, I have PDFs that you can scan and get. And because one thing about me is you're going to do some work. So it does, the book itself does have, it's called The Pain Plan, and it does have work in there as well, worksheets that you can scan and get on your phone, and they are fillable. And so that is available on Amazon. So it is available on Amazon, and I don't know if I can drop the link in no, I can't. It's fine. You go to Amazon and type in the
Yeah, you can put it in the chat, Giselle. If you type it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
And put it to everybody, yes.
Yeah, so I don't have the everybody option. That's why I said that.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah. That's all right.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, it is available on Amazon. Yep. And or you can find me on DM me on social media, and I can just mail a copy out to you, and you can purchase it and mail a copy out. I'll mail a copy out. So yeah, that's my book, my latest.
Thank you, Giselle. Do you want to share anything, Joanne or Rynaka?
Well, I will be reaching out to Giselle. I might say your name wrong, because actually I started writing a book. I just started. So I really be reaching out to you for some insight. But only thing I really have to promote, and my daycare will be running a summer camp. So if you're looking to bring your kids to the summer camp, we are located over here in Millville. And Miss Turner, I'll be reaching out to you as well, because I think I kind of need help with my mom death. So I kind of need. So I'll be reaching out.
Okay. And this has been a pleasure. I just enjoyed speaking with you ladies on tonight. I do have a private practice. I'm located in Sewell, New Jersey, so I do in person as well as virtual. I accept most insurances as well as private pay. I do individual, marriage, premarital, and family counseling services. I don't know exactly. I guess I can You can look me up on Psychology Today. My information is in there. You can look up my name, but this has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Joanne. And I also want to add, I'm also on Psychology Today. I'm a therapist as well, like Joanne. So if you want more information for either one of us, definitely check us out on Psychology Today. Just wrapping things up, I hope that you all got something out of tonight. Again, I do apologize for the comedian not being able to make it. I want you to know also that the ticket that you purchase is going towards a scholarship. Sound Mind Recovery Center is going to be giving out its first scholarship. It's going to a social work recipient at our can't even get it out, our high school in Bridgeton. So it'll be a scholarship, and your funds which you have purchased is going towards that. So I want to thank you for your contribution towards the scholarship. I want to thank you for showing up tonight. I want to thank you, Giselle, Rynaka, and Joanne, for making this just a great time. And I hope you all got something out of it. Get the help you need. If you need to reach out to a therapist, get you a therapist, a life coach. If you need to, reconnect in regards to like your spirituality, do what you need to do so you can be the best version of yourself. I don't know how to heal without God. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So connect to, what you need. Recognize what's missing in your life and find the need. Connect to the need, of resource to help you meet that area. I hope nothing but the best for you. I would appreciate if you post your feedback of what you thought about the event, because that will help me to get some more people the next time I have an event. And that's all I have to say. So I want you to have a great night. And most importantly, it is my hope that you heal well.
Thank you. Thank you, LaShelle.
No problem. Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, ladies.
Good
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Night.
Good night.